So I want to welcome everybody. My name is Terrell Williams, and I serve as the Associate Director for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the Office of Admissions. I'm really excited about tonight's opportunity to host this panel with our dynamic group of Sloanies who will introduce themselves shortly. And I want to be able to give us some time to introduce our moderator for the evening, Sebastian. Sebastian will share a brief introduction about himself and introduce our panelists for the evening. Sebastian, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sebastian. I'm really excited for this panel and to share with you guys a little more about Sloan. I'm co-president of the Hispanic Business Club. Prior to Sloan, I was mostly working in education, working for a private equity fund. And I spent this past summer as a corporate strategy intern at an education company. So a company that does education curriculum providing. So really excited about having everyone here, and I'm happy to kind of start intros if that's cool with everyone else. So Jessica, if you can get us started.
Awesome. Jessica Lone. I did my MBA in 2021. Also, I guess I did the dual degree program. So graduated with my MBA in 2021, and then spent an additional year in 2022. So I did mine separate versus together. Happy to talk about that if there's a question on that. Originally from Idaho, daughter of farm workers. My parents are from Sinaloa, Mexico. And I worked in finance before coming to MIT and Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, and then wanted to pivot into ventures. So decided to get my MBA at MIT, technology and finance skill set and entrepreneurship skill set. And then after MIT, I decided to be a leadership coach and kind of carve my own path depending on like what I wanted to do. So became a leadership coach, did a fellowship at Harvard on leadership, and I'm currently the CEO and founder of Launch, etc., which is a company that's creating a digital platform that allows brands and companies to sell in the United States better using artificial intelligence and data to drive sales and product market channels. And I also do side hustle consulting. I support people and connect people in finding capital. I know it's a lot, but I think that I like to be a jack of all trades and see how I can and be helpful in many ways. Happy to answer any questions and excited for y'all to be here.
Javier, you can go next.
Yeah, thank you, Sebastian, and happy to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Javier. I'm a Sloan Fellow from the MBA program. I graduated in 2022. It's 2 years ago. It seems like it was yesterday. I chose the Sloan Fellow MBA program because I think it's the best mid-career program that there is in the world. I can discuss that further later. Before MIT, I just had my previous experience was in capital markets. And then I moved and created the largest public private equity fund in Colombia for managing the state-owned enterprises there, the portfolio of state-owned enterprises. I did my MBA in 2021 to 2022. And then I pivoted into consulting. I became the director for the energy practice of FTI Consulting. It's a large consulting firm here in the US and worldwide. I became the director in the energy practice for Latin America. So pretty much during the past 2 years, I've been working with companies across Latin America, providing business strategy and restructuring services pretty much. And now probably I'm transitioning to a new role, but so far I'm at FTI and happy to discuss later with all of you. Thank you, Sebastian.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bernardo. I'm originally from Brazil. I was a master's in finance, graduated in 2022. Prior to Sloan, I worked at Fannie Mae. I was a credit valuation and financial modeling and data analytics specialist. So I worked with mortgage-backed security pricing, NPL and RPL sales, that kind of thing. Joined Sloan because of how passionate I was about finance. I think Sloan's the birthplace of modern finance. Can talk a lot in depth later about that, but it really was the experience that I was hoping for. And after leaving Sloan, I decided to join McKinsey at the strategy and corporate finance practice. So I work primarily with corporate finance endeavors in the financial institutions group, mostly with banks around recapitalization or high-level strategy transformations. I focus specifically on commercial banking and small business banking, so try to do a little bit of those two, but happy to chat more about my work later on.
Hi, everyone. My name is Estella. I graduated from the Master of Business Analytics program last year. As you saw on the slide previously, of early career, I had 2 years of work experience as a data analyst at Dick's Sporting Goods, and I wanted to pivot into a more technical role in data science. And now I'm currently a data scientist at the Library of Congress. And I chose the MBAN program because I liked how they put an emphasis on real world applications and not just technical skills and putting it into practice in businesses. So yeah, happy to talk more about my experience. Questions arise.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Hungerford. I graduated from the Leaders for Global Operations program in 2023. Before I went to MIT, I actually was an engineering associate for the city of Los Angeles for about 6 years, developing large capital projects, large water projects and power projects. So I actually really enjoyed that work, and I probably would still be there if I didn't go to MIT. And at MIT is such an amazing experience. I love my time there. I loved all the friends I made and the times and experiences I had. After MIT, I joined Verizon in their energy sustainability team, essentially decarbonizing our operations, so reducing our electricity bills, so saving costs on the operation side, and also reducing the emissions associated with the energy that powers our data centers, our technical buildings, and our admin buildings. So I looked at different opportunities during MIT and always came back to energy and sustainability. So I wanted to do that right after school, and Verizon gave me that opportunity. Happy to talk about the LGO program, life after Sloan, and my decision to go to Sloan during the panel. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. It's really cool to be in this room. It's not super common that you have so many people from different backgrounds like this. So appreciate y'all all being here. I guess like the first question for y'all is to really understand kind of in your experience from being at Sloan, how did you guys feel that MIT fostered an inclusive environment for Hispanic students? Like, what were the ways that Latinx students at Sloan like came together and that you really felt that? And I'm happy to kind of hear this from everyone, especially knowing the fact that we're all kind of in different programs.
Happy to get it kicked off. My experience was around a lot of the groups that they created on campus. There's really a wide range of groups that you can participate in, but both the Hispanic group and the Brazilian club as well are extremely active, and people get together constantly. People help each other out. And even though we are all different groups, I think every single one of us has probably been in similar, if not the same classes at some point in time, at least a few of them. So it's also helped with study groups and so on. So yeah, that's my experience mostly through the groups and the relationships we start building there.
Yeah, no, I echo everything you said. I think the events a lot of the underrepresented minority groups hosted, I thought was a really great way to just meet folks kind of from similar backgrounds, and actually a lot of different backgrounds as well. And just get together and kind of just get to know each other and understand where perspectives come from, and just, just create a sense of community at Sloan. So I really appreciated that, and I always try to attend all the events that Hispanic Business Club, Black Student Association, all the other URM communities were hosting, and I always had an amazing time there.
I'll jump in. I always try to keep it real, and to be real, there isn't a lot of us there, and there's less now with this new law that was reversed, as you've seen the articles and everything. So I think that is something that we could do better. I came in a time where it was just like COVID, and I came and then COVID happened. So definitely, I think that something that I did was just like, you need to push to make things better, and I took it upon myself to really organize a lot of events and everything because I wanted that community. And wherever I go and create that community. So the Hispanic Business Club, for example, I was the president of that. I also was very involved with the Black Student Association and the ABC, which is the African Student Business Club, which led me to start my own nonprofit, which is Latinx MBA. So I'm the founder of Latinx MBA, which I founded with a couple of other students across different business schools. But it was, again, to create community among MBAs because there's so few of us. And at least in the United States, we are now up to like $3.6 trillion, which is higher than the GDP of France. Yet we're not being represented in a lot of these programs. Not only MIT, everyone is struggling with this. But also it's just like, we're not represented in these programs. We're also not represented in corporate America. We're not represented as we get 3% of venture-backed funding. 3% of our business make it to $1 million. So you have to go and create this space sometimes and go build it. And I think MIT gives you the right tools, the infrastructure, and the resources to go do that. And I push you guys to do more of that versus expecting that there will be something that will be there created. There will be, but also take some ownership and be able to show a little bit more activism.
Yeah, building on what Jessica has just mentioned, I mean, sometimes I think you have your tools available, and then you need to actually like know how to use them. It's not that it's already given. It's not that, okay, you have some clubs, you have some like organization already established, but it's not like the way where you can actually get like all the support that sometimes you need, and mainly as a Latin or Hispanic student. I'm just gonna tell you a story about my partner. I just met her at the MIT when we were studying the same program, and she's from Spain, but we organized as Latinos just to have someone who represented us at the Senate. You know, there is a Senate of students, and there are pretty much like 4 or 5 people who are representing. So we tried like, try to be more organized. We had the possibility of have someone who were like there at the Senate, like speaking from on our behalf. So we just made it happen. We just like organize it and took advantage of all these tools that we had available, just to have like a more direct discussion with the faculty and the management. And at that time also we were studying during COVID, so those times were harsh. I'm not gonna go into it, but it gives you a sense of you have someone there and can make that your voice is heard when it's necessary.
Thanks everyone. It's helpful to kind of hear what you guys really took advantage of while you're here. And as now president of the Hispanic Club and from Jessica's lineage, it's been really cool to like also kind of take this on to try to really build this community at Sloan. But agree with Jessica that oftentimes it does fall on you to kind of think about that and kind of a little bit of what that looks like. I guess like what advice would y'all give for prospective students, like both like I bet a bunch of people here are applying to school and have like submitted their applications, are kind of all at different places. But when people who are kind of on the outside looking in, like what advice would you give them as they're applying to school?
Just apply. Let them tell you no. Oftentimes we say, oh, I'm not gonna, my test score, my essay, like make up excuses. Like just do it. And like that's really what's stopping you. And when I got to MIT, I was just like, it wasn't, I mean, the challenging part is getting to MIT and like applying to these programs and getting in. And then it's just like, okay, everything is kind of downhill from there. But I would say just apply, let them tell you no, even if you're scared, even if you don't think you'll get in, like let them tell you.
You really never know. I echo what Jessica said. I had already accepted and paid for my reservation fee at another school, like my backup school, because I did not think I was going to get in. So the feeling of getting that phone call was incredible. And I think I echo like Jessica's feeling. Nothing happens if you don't apply, if you don't try. So just go for it.
Especially my women. we need more, and y'all need to apply.
I think just coming from like I guess an LGO perspective, I know some people get intimidated by like the MIT engineering portion of it, and I'd say kind of echo everyone else said. You don't know until you try and apply. MIT is such an amazing campus, and I think another recommendation I would have is when you're looking at business schools, like also look at the campus and the school attached to the business school. Like when you go to Sloan, you go to MIT, and MIT is just like another level of experience and academics, and there's so many great things going on outside of Sloan that you can experience just because you are an MIT student when you come to Sloan. So that's just kind of one of my recommendation when you're looking at business schools. Look at the business school, yes, but also look at the campus, the community, everything else that the campus and the school as a whole can provide to you.
Going off of that same sentiment, I did a very technical program, and I would advise don't let the idea of it's too hard stop you, because the people who get in and succeed thought it was hard. So, and I know from the MBAM program at MIT more generally, we have each other's backs and we'll help each other get through the material. So MIT is hard, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it.
Yeah, you already got the no, so just go and look for the yes.
Yeah, I definitely echo a lot of the sentiment that people said. I feel like from my perspective, it was often you kind of like play the game like, oh, this person got into this school and had this GMAT and had this and that, and like it's all kind of a crapshoot. Like a lot of it kind of goes down to like who you are as a person, and it's just really important to like know that and keep the back of your head when you're kind of applying. There is no magic formula or game that you can gamify throughout the entire process. I guess like one question for everyone, and I've seen a couple of the Q&A also ask this question is like, how have y'all seen, what has been your experience on how the Latinx community at Sloan has able to like engage or empower the local Latinx community in the Boston area? What have y'all's experiences been that way, maybe not in the Boston area, but just at large?
Mine is going to be very targeted. And much like Jessica, I'll say, honestly, I don't know about like ventures from clubs or panels that necessarily were trying to do that, but I will share my experience, which was at Sloan, we got to do a class called Pro Seminar in Corporate Finance, in which it's sponsored by companies. And one of the companies, it was McKinsey. And a lot of the reason that I decided to go there was because of this. I met one of the partners in the Boston office who was, former MBA. She's from Spain. Her brother was in the MBA, I believe, as well. And her kids lived in the area. And through her and like her network, they invested heavily into the development of bilingual speaking schools in the Boston area. So I think it's something that derived from MIT. It's something that, or derived from the network and from the school. I think it's something that is really important for the local community. But I'll say it was, in my experience, at least, much like Jessica said, it's more about the individual endeavors and like activism that people had over necessarily something that I saw from a club.
I've been very involved in, I don't know, all the community since I was in high school. I think that, I started a national nonprofit with the Latinx MBA. We also started a scholarship at MIT Sloan that helps people while they are applying to school. So using IB advisors, which is also Latinx MBA scholarship in a way, but uses IB advisors as like the consultant, but also within the club, like advisors and mentors to help you through the application process. And it really came from the fact that it's expensive to apply to these schools, from application fees, test prep, and overall, although people say don't get a consultant, everyone else is getting consultants. So then it's just like, you feel like you need one too. And I'm not saying you need one, but it's just helpful. And wouldn't you want to make sure your application was at the best place as possible? So we started a scholarship for that, both at Hispanic Business Club and also at Latinx MBA. And also within the Boston community, I would help small businesses in Lawrence, which is largely Dominican community there. I helped like a business owner try to think about a private equity, a real estate fund and how to raise that. And this is through a program that I cross-registered to HBS, which was like scaling minority businesses. And then from there I actually got like 30 under 30 Boston. I was involved in just going to speak to like high schools around the area and motivating them to, go to school. So I think that there's a lot of things that you can do. It just depends on your bandwidth. Like you also don't have you can't forget that you're there for school. You're there to try to like, get a degree, try to take as much as possible. And it often can be taxing for students of color or students that are trying to like support these communities. So I would say like do as much as you can, and that is also yours, like that you enjoy. Like for me, it gives me joy and it pushes me to work harder and it pushes me to just be in the path that I am. But I know that not it doesn't do that for everyone.
Thanks y'all for sharing. And I mean I think that like outside of that, there's a lot of like you like a lot of it you kind of have to find it yourself and kind of like do the things that you have energy for, right? It's really important as we like kind of look into like what can you get involved in, how can you look at this, kind of shifting track and also kind of incorporating some of the questions from the audience to kind of what just y'all's MBA Sloan experience was like outside of being kind of in the Hispanic ecosystem that MIT has created. Would love to hear from y'all. How would you guys describe that like MIT has like really influenced, changed kind of your direction, kind of what you thought you were going to do before and after Sloan, like while you were at school? Like how was MIT really like instrumental in doing that? I'd love to hear that experience from people.
Okay, I think first of all, and the first advice that I give to people when they ask me, okay, what should I do when I'm preparing to go to Sloan? It's like you need to have a plan. It doesn't matter if you need to change the plan 1,000 times, but just like be focused, because you are gonna lose yourself if you don't really know what you want to get from your experience at Sloan. Because I mean, actually, you can do whatever you want to do. You can be more involved in innovation. You can be more involved in AI, which is more popular now, or finance, or tech, or I mean, you name it. So the thing is, like, just be open, just to adjust the plan that you have, but have at least one, and just focus in two things. And if you need to change one of those things that you want to do, it's fine. But if don't try, like to do anything, and try to be exposed as many things that you can. I think you can do it, but at some point you are gonna miss something. So just, I mean, like, building on my experience, I think that I mean, strongly recommend you just have a plan. Let's just focus on what you want to get from your experience at the Sloan. Be open to adjust the plan, but always have something present, that is what I want to get from this. Don't let that just classes and clubs and events just happen. Just but be mindful that your time there is limited, and for some reason the clock start like ticking a little bit faster when you're studying and doing your program there.
I really like what Javier just mentioned. I think coming in with a plan is critical. Like, have an understanding of what your time at Sloan can offer you, and how could it advance in your career and professional life and personal life. But also be ready to pivot extremely hard on certain things, because I know folks who knew exactly what they were going to do after Sloan, and they did not do that. they found something that excited them even more because they talked to another Sloanie, or they met a industry professional during a coffee chat or something, and they pivoted 180 degrees and they went somewhere else. But also understanding what Javier just mentioned, like your time at Sloan, 2 years, maybe less if you do a different program. It's a very important part of your professional development is to understand like what you want to do, how you or where you want to work, like what industry you want to be in. And the best way to kind of solve that and answer those questions is just to meet folks. Take as much time as you can to engage with different communities, talk to professionals, alumni in different industries, and just make the most out of the MIT student name that you have. Because the moment you reach out to someone and say, hey, I'm an MIT student, I'm a Sloan student, there's a high likelihood you're going to get a response. Take advantage of that and learn as much as you can those 2 years and figure out what you want to do after. But be ready to make a hard pivot because you're going to learn so much at MIT and Sloan that you're going to be interested in a lot of different things.
I mean, even today, I don't know, you do whatever you want to do with your time there. Like even right now, there, people are like, oh, you should look for a full-time job. Like that's, at least for me, one of the worst advice you can give an entrepreneur. So it's just like, it's just you go get, the degree. I think another thing is like the name does carry some brand. So it's just like people, I'm in Tijuana looking for clients here, like manufacturing clients. I don't know anything about it, but I'll figure it out because I have contacts like Scott, who did the LGO program. I'll reach out to you and be like, hey, who do I connect? How do I know how to figure this out? It's about figuring it out. And like you figured everything else in your life out, you can also figure this out. I was very much focused while in school in the transition between just like institutional banking to like now more of a venture capital route. So I had exposure to that. I realized that, and I was always hustling because I come from a low income family. I couldn't really afford a lot of these trips that my classmates did. So like I always had a full-time job, not full-time, but like a side hustle, like part-time job. And so, that exposed me to the world of venture, which I realized I didn't necessarily want to go into. And I wanted to build my company instead. Because as I was helping people raise money, I saw that a lot of people that I was raising money from didn't make it up in corporate. And this is my own view, right? And Jessica's view. It's like, and I wanted to be in the other camps, and the other camp is entrepreneurship. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to regret not doing this now. So let me go see what could happen. And if it works out, great. If not, like at least I didn't live with regret. So it's just, I would have loved to be very focused and like had the startup that I have now and have worked on it when I was in school, but I didn't. What I knew was like I wanted to be in VC. I was able to make the transition. Now I'm more on the entrepreneurship side and leveraging still some of those resources and like some of the network and everything to just make it happen.
Amazing. I know we talked kind of a bit about like the things around Sloan, recruiting, career pathways, etc. Like, we'd love to kind of like focus it a little more like in the classroom. Like, we'd love to hear from y'all kind of what was y'all's favorite class at Sloan? Like your most impactful class, the one that you're kind of like taking with you or thinking about. We'd love to hear what y'all think.
I think, sorry, Jessica, you want to go ahead?
You can go.
All right. I think for me, and this is going to be a bailout, but I have 3 for different reasons. So pro seminar for me was a lot of the reason that I ended up in consulting and where I am. It was my first taste at, the work that I do now and like why I decided the career that I did decide on. So I'd say that for that reason. My second favorite class was PE and VC. And because it was given by Antoinette Scholar, she, like, for a variety of reasons from my prior career, she's really the main reason why I came to Sloan. She was someone I looked up to, someone that I read articles, like academic articles from and all of that. So I was really excited to get into her class and something I pursued actively. And I think the third one was advanced corporate finance. As you guys can tell, like I'm really into it. And And that one was just one that surprised me in how, the depth that we went. I thought these were things that I would have seen before. And in a way, it is like if you go to business school, the general concepts are always the same, but the level of depth and nuance that this class went was a lot deeper than I thought it would be. So it was one that I really, really enjoyed, and I built great relationship with the professors as well. We're friends up to this day. I help with courses and that kind of thing because I just love going back to Sloan as much as I can. So those three.
Mine was corporate boards, and just like the amount of exposure to people, and the people that come and speak about kind of like their path to boards, but also like I think it was also C-suite. So like and to the C-suite, and that's something that's very interesting to me. And yeah, I loved kind of the exposure to that. I wish it was in person, but we were on Zoom. But I think that that's an amazing class that everyone should take advantage of. The one that I have nightmares about is DMD. I think it's really helpful and everything, that data management decision. But I don't think it was my favorite class, and I don't know. But I'm glad I took it. But I don't know.
I would say my favorite class was hands-on deep learning. It was in Sloan, and it took some of the cutting edge technologies like AI and large language models. And the professor, Professor Ramakrishnan was the one I took it with, took the material and explained it in a way that was accessible to not only MBAN students, but to MBA students and people all over Sloan. And it was a very enjoyable class. I think a lot of people would also agree who took it, would say that it was a really great class.
I really liked the class called, I think, Energy Ventures. It's essentially like developing a startup in the energy sustainability world, and you work with a team, and there's a handful of students that already come in the class with ideas because they're like PhDs or advanced degree students at MIT and Harvard. And so they come up with a really cool idea, and then you join their team to help with their business development, help with their market attack program, and like just understand how to develop a business plan and pitch to venture capitalists. And I thought that was super cool because I came from utility, and that world was just different than what I ever came from. So I thought that was interesting. And then I like intro to operations, just because it kind of showed you how companies work. Like operations is the heart of like how a company operates. And I thought that was really interesting to kind of get involved in different industries like manufacturing, other industries that I didn't have a background in, and just understand how they actually do the day-to-day activities. And I thought it was really cool. And I think Sean Williams was an amazing professor for intro to ops.
Well, for me, my favorite class was Economics for Strategic Decisions with Robert Pindick. I think this guy needs to be awarded with a Nobel Prize at some point in the next years. I think that is one of the best strategy courses in Sloan, and that was I think the main reason was because when I was doing my undergrad like 20 years ago, most of the microeconomics books were written by Bob Pindick. So it was the dream that when you go to MIT, you are meeting those guys who, at some point you thought that they were just like living just in a dream, and just realize that they're like, normal people, but super, super smart. So Bob Pindick is one of the best professors that I had the opportunity to meet when I was at Sloan. And also that class was at Harvard. That you have the opportunity to take some courses at Harvard. I was very focused on strategy, so I tried to take as much strategy courses at MIT and Harvard as I could. I took this one called Executing Strategy. I think is also one of the more relevant strategy courses. Focus on how you execute the strategy of a company and how you actually do it in real life. I think you have the opportunity to study with Duncan or with many strategy professors about the theory, but there are some other courses that help you to understand how you put it in practice.
Amazing. Thanks, y'all. I mean, I think the cool part, right, is that you can take like classes at MIT, classes at Harvard, classes at in the engineering department. Like it's just like so many places that you can take and take advantage of kind of like what's out there. So I like definitely recommend kind of y'all checking out. And also just like classes where you work with real companies. We're coming up with time soon, but kind of one last question for the group. I think that like a lot of the people kind of on the call here are both from the US and outside the US, right? Like people who kind of aren't necessarily born and raised here. What was it like kind of both creating a network and experience outside of the US within Latinx communities or outside of Latinx communities, and maybe potentially working even with countries outside of the US?
I'm in Mexico right now, so that's something that's like really much I've been working on both sides. I think at MIT, I could have done a better job at engaging better with the international Latinos. Um, but I think that, um, yeah, I could have, yeah, I don't know. COVID was like weird. But I think that, it's about the network in terms of are you willing to reach out and everything. I'm part of like the Ciudad de Mexico MIT network, and it's just like reaching out to people and trying to tap into these different communities. Also at the end of the day, it's like, what are you working on? Like, what is it that you're really like interested in doing? So it's also like building your own network and being able to like, figure out what that ecosystem for people is gonna look like.
I think for me, it's been a great experience. Not just in the U.S. In the U.S., my network, it's definitely the largest. But at least my program, there was a lot of both European and Asian students. So that did go back to their home countries afterwards. So it was very interesting to see a lot of my friends go back and develop these really interesting business careers in other countries. I know that there was also a lot of MIT alumni in Brazil. So when I go back occasionally in São Paulo, there is a community there. So it's really great to to connect and meet a lot of these alumni. So I'd say the school has been great in fostering, people that go to Sloan. I feel like usually are very proud of it and do want to connect with other Sloanies and have that community built out. So I think that's definitely something I've felt throughout.
Amazing. Thank y'all. And like, I mean, speaking for myself, like I did a class with the Action Learning Office where I was like helping company in Jakarta, Indonesia with their AI strategy, and was like able to connect with alumni while I was in Jakarta for a week and like talk to a bunch of people who are in the market. And it was kind of really easy to kind of make that connection because like I was very surprised that the Sloan kind of brand really kind of transcends these markets. But again, really, really appreciate all y'all's responses and taking the time. It was super cool to like hear everyone else's perspective and super cool to meet y'all.